Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Ghoul Friend Hour. I'm your host, Morgan Feza,
And I'm Taylor Jones. And
and let's
let's get
get
weird.
weird.
They were so close that time.
We're getting better at it.
We got the let's.
Yeah. So I'm gonna preface this episode with saying that I'm gonna apologize in advance for the possible chewing. I'm going to eat a butterboard because it's a mom snack. Mercury has been in Gatorade again. So life has been
No,
chaotic.
now
We almost
Jupiter's
canceled.
in Gatorade.
Jupiter's in Gatorade. We almost canceled again, but I was like, you know what? I can't.
The
Like in
universe
my
has it
like
out for
conscience
us.
and my soul, I was like, I can't do this.
It's too much. Everybody's off right now.
Yeah. It's problematic.
It's crazy. It's crazy too, because I was just thinking about it. We have not done an episode. All I know is that it was while I was still working at the camp job. So that was like, I think late July, probably.
Yeah,
Early
because I think it
August.
was did we do one when I came back from the cruise?
I don't think so. I think we were supposed to, and then
There was a lot of stuff that
something
happened.
happened. Yeah.
Oh, my ears.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, and I
because
was
it was a
also
couple days after we got back.
yeah, and I was also prepping for my test.
Yeah. So we had a lot going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a time. Mercury has not been kind to us. I
Hopefully
know some people will be
Jupiter's
like,
better.
embrace it. Like, embrace it, but I can't embrace this right now. My HVAC broke. So I'm sweating it out in my sauna office because I did try to do the podcast from my car, and that turned absolutely infuriating. So I was like, yeah, we're not going to do that. We're going to eat a butterboard, use
In a
my
sauna.
office to melt my butterboard, and we're going to zen out. We're going to enjoy this episode. So today we are going to be talking about a case that I think it's a part of the 411 missing cases, right?
Yeah.
Um about a 6-year-old Dennis Martin. So I'm gonna turn it over to Taylor. I'm gonna let her kind of introduce the case to you guys, and then we will have some fun Ghoul Friend Hour banter on the case, kind of our thoughts, and really just dive into the weirdness that are the 411 missing cases. So without further ado, Taylor.
All right. So before I get into the case, I do want to mention, for those of you that might not know about the Missing 411 community, Missing 411 is basically a community that was kind of created by, not so much by, but I guess like it involves a man named David, is it Paulides?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to mispronounce his name. He had written a whole bunch of books talking about the thousands and thousands of people who mysteriously go missing in the national parks. And it's not just normal people going missing, it's more like the unexplained, can't figure out how they disappeared, what happened to them, that kind of missing. So he wrote a whole bunch of books. I was really going to try to get my hands on one of them, but it's a lot of money, which rightfully so. I respect that because it's got a lot of information in it. But maybe one day we'll try to see if we can get the book so we can actually read some of it, because I'm actually interested to see what he's written. But yeah, before I get into the whole story, there's also, besides Missing 411, there's an official system, which is so scary what I'm about to say that it's even a thing. The US has actually created something called the National Missing and Unidentified Person System, or NamUs, however they say it. So basically, it's a system made for the national parks so that anybody that goes missing gets put into the system. And what's crazy is that this might be exaggerated. I did research, and some people said that it's an exaggerated number. Other people said that it's real, but one of the websites that I found talks about how apparently more than 600,000 people go missing every year. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but there are thousands of people that definitely go missing. And the scary part is and Morgan and I had actually talked about this a couple weeks ago when we were first doing research, how if you look up national park missing people, there is a whole website dedicated to it. It's so creepy. And what's even creepier is that I think like the first part or the first person that's on that list is like a Jane Doe, which is sad, but
Really
like
sad.
it's crazy. And then you scroll and you see like all these different people missing. Obviously, not all of them are going to be mysterious and unexplained. Some of them might be from murder, some people might be, you know, actually lost, because the, you know, national parks are a huge, like they're ginormous. You can easily get lost if you're not, you know, educated and know like where you're supposed to be going, which is why whenever Patrick and I go to the national parks, if we ever do, um we know not to veer off the path, because I've noticed a lot of these people that tend to go missing are the ones that like to explore the areas that are not supposed to be explored. And I'm all for exploring places, especially abandoned places, but like places that you shouldn't, I feel like that's like a big no. So,
Which I do want to add, if any of you are interested in David Paulides, he has, like, if you're not a reader, because I know people are like book people and you have video people. If you don't want to like dive into a book, you can go on Amazon Prime. It's called Missing 411: The Hunted. And it's basically about hunters who have disappeared from the wildlands without a trace for like hundreds of years. And it's just haunting true stories of hunters that have experienced the unexplainable in the woods of North America. So it has over, I think, like 5,000 or 6,000 ratings. And it's like almost 5 stars. So you know it's got to be good. It's about an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes. Definitely check it out because it's super interesting. And it does kind of make you raise an eyebrow. So being that, you know, I did watch some of it because I didn't have time to really dive into the books just yet. But it is very, very interesting. So there's definitely some YouTube videos. There's a bunch of different things that you can kind of go down. But check it out if you want to kind of watch some firsthand accounts from people who kind of want to just tell you their stories.
yeah, and hopefully Morgan and I have talked. Hopefully we can get him on here one day, which would be really
We're
cool.
working on it.
Yeah,
We're
that would be
working on
so
it.
awesome.
So
Who there was another person you said you were gonna try to get on too. Who was that?
yeah, so I'm really excited. So have you ever seen the movie The Right?
No, unless maybe if I see the trailer, I probably know. Sometimes I know the movie and not the name of it.
Yeah, so I didn't know this until I had Bishop James Long on the podcast. He was like, "Oh, have you ever seen the movie The Right?" And I was like, "That's like one of my favorite Exorcist movies because it's more realistic. It's very realistic, and the tone of it keeps to a lot of realism." And when I was listening to Bishop James Long talk about his experiences with exorcisms, the first movie that I thought of was The Right because it was exactly how he described it. And then when we were talking, he's like, "Okay, so you know the movie The Right?" I was like, "Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies." And he said, yeah, that's based on like a real story. Like that came about because there was a ordained oh gosh, I always get these terms mixed up. So he was a priest, and he was a big deal. He was through the Vatican, he was an exorcist. And I reached out to him and he basically said that he is under like a new hold on. I want to make sure I get this correct, like these names and stuff. It's so hard because you know there's so many different levels to things in
Yeah.
Catholicism. And so I want to get, because I even when I was talking to him I felt like such a dodo because I called one of the priests like sir or something and he's like, "Actually it's father." He's like, "I'm not trying to be like pretentious or anything." He's like, "It's just, you know, the correct." I was like, "No, I was like, I'm glad you told me. It's just
Yeah.
there's so many terms."
Yeah.
So Reverend Gary Thomas is his name. That's who it was based upon. So I reached out to him via email and he answered me very quickly. And he said, "Dear Morgan," he said, "thank you for your email. Invite you to and the invite to speak on your podcast." So he's no longer the mandated exorcist for the Diocese of San Jose. He was named the director of propedeutic year at St. Patrick's Seminary. So he said propedeutic means preparation. So he's like, he's no longer able to give interviews to the media per his new bishop. So I was like, that's totally fine. He's like, sorry that I can't be more helpful. So he got me in touch with Father Vincent Lampert, who is the new exorcist of Indianapolis. So he does a lot with the media. I did some research on him. Really cool guy. So I'm excited. I have to email him. I haven't gotten around to that just because there's been other emails that people have been replying to. We have a gentleman from Expedition Bigfoot that
Really?
I'm working on. Yeah. So he said when they announced the new season, I reached out to Sean Flannery from Nefarious, the new movie Nefarious.
Okay.
He was awesome guy. I honestly didn't expect him to respond. A lot of people know him from the movie Powder. He reached out and just said, as expected, super crazy time with Nefarious being out. He said reach out to him like in the fall, like more in the deeper in the fall.
Yeah.
And he would gladly be on. So I was like, that's really cool. So we have a lot of really awesome guests in the works. So that's kind of what I've been working on. I totally forgot to tell you that. Like, I was like, there's so
Gatorade right now.
Yeah, freaking Gatorade. It's the purple Gatorade.
Ew, no.
I'm sorry if you like purple Gatorade, but
I don't
it's like
think I've ever had purple Gatorade. I'm gonna be honest. There's a reason for that.
It's just not it.
I mean, if I've never tried it, it says something.
Yeah. So yeah. But yeah, so we have a lot, and there's some I didn't name yet. Because I think like if I speak it out loud, I'm just like worried I'm gonna jinx it at this point with the way things are going. But there's actually a lot in the works. A couple mediums, a couple psychics, a couple more people from TV shows. Brandon Alvis, awesome dude. I can't speak highly enough about him. And so yeah, and then this coming weekend, my cousin and I will be attending the Hell House Paracon. So we're gonna meet some cool people there. It's like a paranormal convention. It's in Lehigh Valley. If you're not doing anything.
I am. It's Patrick's birthday weekend. Freaking
damn it, Patrick.
Right? He has to turn
Damn
25.
it.
What the heck?
Him and his unwiped ass.
Exactly.
Gosh. We still know that you're the reason that the fecal matter in the
100%.
ocean is up to like 4 tons.
Yeah, 100%.
It's from all the times you didn't wash your ass and you went into the ocean.
As he walks by. Hi. We're talking about your unwashed ass still.
Why?
Forever.
Because I'll tell you later.
It's a long story. It's a long unwashed story, okay?
It really is. What that makes me think of that video. God, that song. Oh my god. And it was something like the unwashed ass. What is that song?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was like I'm not taking advice from a man with an unwashed ass. Or like, yeah. That was my theme song for like a year. I'm gonna have to look that up after this.
That should be his.
Okay. So anyway, we digress. But you already knew that was gonna happen between Taylor and I. So
we're in Gatorade,
back
okay?
to yeah, we're in Gatorade. Purple Gatorade. So we're getting back to the missing 411. So we told you guys we digress, but we did let you guys know some upcoming fun stuff. And then I'm gonna try and upload some cool footage from the Paracon this weekend, hopefully meet some cool guests and maybe get them on the podcast. But yeah, so getting back to the missing 411 cases, we're gonna talk about a particular case that is particularly creepy.
Gave me the I was gonna say the ick, but it didn't give me the ick. It gave me
the chilly willies.
Yeah, it gave me the eeks.
The eeks. The heebie jeebs.
Very unsettling.
Do you want me to announce like the
The what?
like the title?
Oh, yeah. Take it away, Penny.
So we're going to talk about the Dennis Martin disappearance, mystery in the Great Smoky Mountains. And I think this one's particularly creepy because it involves a child. So trigger warning, if you don't do well with kids and going missing, now's your time to tune out. Because we're gonna get into it.
Gonna be the whole episode. I also just have to say really quick, I've already put up spooky decorations in the house, and I forgot that I put a little spooky skeleton on the door, and I have the curtains covering the door, and it scared me because it looked like something of a child was
Oh,
hiding
no.
behind the curtain, and then I realized what it was. So we're
Oh
off
no,
to a good
baby.
start.
Don't do that.
We're
I
off
do
to a
that all
good
the time. I haven't honestly, I'm so delayed with our spooky decorations. It's depressing.
Put a few things, just a few.
All I have is cobwebs to show for, and that's
Oh,
because I haven't cleaned.
wait till you see. I have to send you pictures. My dad and I'm helping him this year go all out for Halloween. He loves Beetlejuice and he has a
Uh-oh.
couple Beetlejuice decorations already, but like we went, I have to send you, I'll send you a picture later. I made a gigantic, it's probably got to be like 3 feet. You remember Dante's Inferno room? In
Yeah.
I made the devil face. A
Did you
huge
really?
I did. It's ginormous. It's gonna go on the
Dude.
window. And then we're making like the Beetlejuice sign and stuff. And he's got like, Barb and Adam. And he just went to Spirit Halloween and got the Beetlejuice, the sitting Beetlejuice, but we're gonna touch him up because he looks like he shit his pants.
Dude,
So
they always look terrible.
it's
They're like
ugly.
wish versions of like
He looks like he's sitting there and he's just like
they're wish versions of good characters, but they're not wish
it's
prices.
so gross.
They're like,
All
that'll be
right.
$79.99 for
Honestly, I think he spent like 100 something bucks on it too.
that's nuts what they want for Halloween decorations. I'm like, this is gonna get
Trash.
tattered and worn down outside, right?
Maybe that's what makes it look better. I don't know. All right. Do you want me to tell the story?
I'm choking on an almond.
There was an almond in your butterboard?
Sliced
Oh,
almonds.
oh, there you go.
Very fancy.
This episode is gonna be sponsored by Purple Gatorade and butterboards with
And
sliced
butterboards.
almonds.
And crappy Beetlejuice painted faces.
Exactly. Oh, and hot offices too.
Oh,
All right. So the source that I'm going to read from is from 10 News. It's an article. Think I think that 10 News has a section because it's called The Vanished. So that's what I'm going to be reading from. But there's a boy named Dennis Martin. What occurred? I'm going to try to not have a verbal stroke right now. As I always do. All of this occurred in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. So when I talk about this, that is where the location is going to be.
and
And
that's
it's
in
also,
Tennessee.
yeah, and that is also known as one of the most mysterious. This is one of the most mysterious missing child cases that has happened. And this happened 54 years ago, and it's still to this day unsolved. So Dennis Lloyd Martin was just 6, almost 7 years old when he vanished in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Some people figured he was kidnapped, others reckoned he had got lost and disoriented in the woods, and a few imagined a fate far worse. To this day, no one knows the truth. A few months ago, the Federal Bureau of Investigation publicly released Dennis Lloyd Martin's case file in its vault. It contained, this is what's crazy, it contained 133 pages of documentation. And the FBI had held these files for decades, which says a lot. Like that right there says so much. Of course, they would be holding it. They were released due to relentless, persistent FOIA, which is federal, requests placed by the investigator and author. And I apologize if I mispronounce his name, but I believe it's pronounced Michael Bouchard or Bouchard.
Bouchard.
Probably Bouchard, right? Sounds
I feel like I've
right.
heard that last name.
Yeah. Bouchard said the FBI denied his FOIA FOIA request 3 times before releasing the information in the public in 2022. The FBI documentation provides new details into the mystery of the case. Now here is where we get into it. It began in the summer of 1969 in Spencefield on June 14th. I've always thought of that case, you know, when I say my young children and grandchildren reach that age, you know, you think about that. You think about how this person possibly could go missing, said Todd Matthews. I guess this is. Oh. Sometimes I get ahead of myself. All I need to do is read the next sentence to figure out who Todd Matthews is.
Huh?
Matthews is the former director of the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, which we spoke about before, the NamUs or NamUs. It's a national database that keeps track of people missing across the country. Dennis Martin was one of the first names on it, and it's a name they've never taken off. That's so sad. For 54 years. He's probably at the bottom of the list. If NamUs is properly used, I think we can drastically cut down on missing and unidentified persons, even some of the older cases, Matthews said. According to the National Park Service incident report, Dennis was last spotted at 4:30 p.m. on the night of June 14th. He had been on a camping trip with the family for Father's Day weekend, and he was wearing a red shirt. Also, stop me whenever you want to put any notes in, because once I'm reading, I'm into it. According to the incident report, Dennis had been playing a game of hide and seek. See, I'm going to stop you there for a second because that's where I feel like it all went wrong. Who plays hide and seek in a national park?
No.
I don't like that. That's
I get the from a child aspect of it, the thrill for them because they're so small. It probably seems like such a I mean, it is a really large space, but they're this is a great place to play hide and seek. But the problem with toddlers is they fit so many places. I can't even tell you. My house is only 17,000 square feet, and Maisie has duped me more times than I would like to admit because she just finds very peculiar places to place herself in. And then I go into a full-blown panic and I'm I'm not playing hide and seek with you anymore. So to know that as a parent, I can see where the kid is coming from, wants to play. It seems like a big wide open world and oh, this is amazing. But as a parent, probably should you probably want to nip that in the butt if your kid ever wants to play hide and seek in a national forest.
You know what's funny? What's scarier than ghosts is not ghosts aren't even scary compared to kids playing hide and go seek. That shit's terrifying.
Forget hide and clap. That kind of stuff freaks me out. I'm I just don't. I'd rather not.
Whoever came up with that game is fucking disgusting.
They're probably demon themselves.
Demon.
Yeah, I know my tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth.
No, my ADHD kicked in. I was thinking of the BuzzFeed guys.
Oh gosh.
I forgot demon.
What's up, demons? It's me, your boy.
All right. They said he was just out of sight for only a few minutes, and those minutes turned into hours. Spencefield is nestled just off of the Appalachian Trail. Martin's family members hiked for miles in search of Dennis. By 8:30 p.m., those family members hiked 6 miles to the nearest ranger station in Cades Cove to alert authorities. That is insane. That night, rain delayed the search efforts. Of course it rained, because why would it be anything else? The rain, I'm sure, it made it harder to travel on foot. The people that were looking for remains or whatever was left, it made it harder to track, Matthews said. The fact that he even says the people that were looking for remains, it was only not even a whole day. And he's already talking about remains. That's insane. Searchers from all over came in to help, both trained and untrained. NPS reports showed nearly every inch of the mile radius that Dennis vanished from had been walked by volunteers. At the peak of the search, 1,400 showed up to look for Dennis, the biggest national park search of all time. I wonder if that's changed recently, or if that is still to this day the largest national park research.
That's a good question.
I'm curious.
I will pause just quickly because so in one of the things that I had read was that it wasn't necessary. Well, it was a game of hide and seek, But um June 14th, 1969, when they did this trip that day, they had just finished setting up their campsite, but it said that when um Denny went to hide, he was with his older brother Doug and two other boys from the campsite, and they decided it would be like funny to play a prank on like the adults. The part that got me was that the prank obviously entailed them going off into the woods to hide and then jumping out at their respective parents, um, who were just kind of hanging out. You know, when you set up, you just kind of want to chillax and reap the harvest of all your hard work. I can't even talk today. Yeah, whatever. Um, and they decided that the reason that Denny should hide by himself, so like the three of them, the three older boys stayed together, but then had the youngest hide by himself. And the reason was because of that bright red shirt and the green shorts. They thought that since they were trying to pull off this prank, they're like, if you hide with us, like your bright red shirt is going to give us away. And so
That's so stupid.
it's very like was not a smart choice, especially for a sibling. Like if you're an older sibling,
Yeah, I would
you know,
never let my siblings go off like that.
but it's I mean it was a different age too, you know,
And
the
I know they were a lot
60s.
more trusting back
Yeah.
then.
So it said that Bill Martin, Denny's father, had last spotted his son, Denny, stepping off of the trail to hide behind a bush. And like what got me was like this was an annual camping trip. So like the area that they were staying in was not like it wasn't like they went deep into the woods from what I had researched. And they were close by the parents, and it wasn't like an area that they didn't know because this was annual. So, you know, Denny was 6 years old. So they had done this for 6 years. He probably remembers what, like 2 or 3 of those years. But, you know, everybody there was pretty familiar with it. So, like, you know, just for me, that right there kind of raised a red flag. Like, it's odd. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he stepped behind a bush and probably was hanging out there. And it's like, it makes you go, hmm.
But then you want to know like what was it? Like did he walk off? Did something take him? Did somebody hurt him? Like it could be a number of things. It could be somebody could have snatched him. An animal could have snatched him. He could have started wandering off cuz like I get
There's so many
6 almost 7
possibilities in a
like
national
yeah.
forest.
Yeah. Like I get that that's probably like what like kindergarten, maybe first grade, and those kids pretty much have like a good sense of their surroundings and like of everything. But I also feel like back then, because things were so trusting and laid back, maybe his curiosity got the best of him and maybe he walked off on his own. Like there's just so many things that so
I'd
many
just be
questions that
curious
you
to
can't
like
figure
see the
out.
area and see how far the bush was away from the older sibling, well, the sibling and the older children,
Mm-hmm.
because like when Doug and the two other campground kids when they jumped out at the adults, I think it was like several minutes where like Denny didn't come out. And it was like I just feel like too, like depending on how far he was, like if he's wearing such bright clothing, wouldn't that have caught your eye? Like if they I guess in my head I'm like if they were afraid of Denny giving them away, right? They
Yeah.
made him hide alone, probably not far. They had to have been within a decent view of the parents if they were going to jump out and scare them. So
Mm-hmm.
like all of this has to be like the way that I'm seeing it in my head is it has to be like in close relation. So when this child didn't emerge from these bushes, and if he did at any point, wouldn't the red sweatshirt have been an initial like you
Yeah.
saw him go
Yeah.
somewhere. Like I feel like that would have like triggered my like peripheral vision to be like, where are you going? Like what are you
Mm-hmm.
doing? And um yeah, it was like sad because then the father ventured in the forest to search for him and he ran down the trail for like nearly 2 miles.
That's crazy.
Um and he didn't see or hear Denny. And then that's like when they started that search. So I'm just like, it just seems like it's all in close proximity. So it just would be hard for me to believe that, you know, one, if an animal did snatch him, that would probably be a loud and aggressive struggle.
Yeah.
That's you would hear
And you'd probably hear
something.
him scream.
Yeah. And if he wandered off, if they were that close to the parents and were that worried about him giving them away, like they would have seen if he walked off.
Yeah,
So it just, yeah, so I don't know.
it's crazy. But the one thing though, because I was just reading a little ahead, the one thing though that I do notice probably didn't help was that they did say that when they had all those people, you know, try to help out, that there was that many people, um, they said that so many people could have trampled over evidence and missed things that a more trained eye could have spotted. And I think where they did partly go wrong was having 1,400 people look, because I get it's to cover more ground, but when you especially have people that may not be as trained, because they did say trained and untrained people.
Well, if they're in panic, you're not going to be looking for the little things.
Exactly.
You're going to just be looking for
Exactly.
him.
So they could have stepped over footprints, they could have stepped over maybe pieces of, you know, anything that could have been his on him, which I don't even, you know, it's just it I can understand why they could have had more of an issue now that I'm like reading this again, because they probably tampered with a lot of evidence and they didn't even realize it.
And you know what that kind of reminds me of? So, like, the Villisca Axe murders is another prime example of a time where they had, they went to search for the murderer and stuff like that, and all the people in the town like linked up to like seek out, this person or whatever, and they said that they like ruined a crime scene.
Yeah.
Like they like came in the house and everybody was like taking pictures, and not like pictures, but I guess I thought it said pictures. They were doing something. And like it's true. I feel like the more hands in the pot, the more compromised it becomes.
Mm-hmm.
And I know too, so where they were at, it was called like Spence Field,
Mm-hmm.
I think if I remember correctly.
Spencefield, yeah.
And they did say that it was the site of an old Appalachian homestead. So like it was, they said the area was very much characterized by jagged like ravines and like steep slopes, and like a wider array of wildlife, including feral hogs, bears, and copperhead snakes. So
That's crazy.
yeah.
All right. So, uh, they had said, back to all the people searching, they said that hundreds of rescue crews, hiker clubs, Boy Scouts, sheriff's offices, firefighters, and community members showed up to help. The Red Cross provided food, helicopters, and canine units were deployed to search. And they also said that, according to reports, the final cost of the search was 50,000. So if you found him, that was the award, and that was only in 1969. So because the search is still ongoing, if you compare that cost with inflation now, that would be the equivalent to 415,000. So if you found him, or if you found his remains, I guess, you would have almost $500,000.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool that the Green Berets were like a part of the search.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty neat. I was like that
Yeah.
they had a lot of different specialties. And I did also read that during the search, shortly after he went missing, there was super heavy winds and rain showers that descended on the area. So like I'm sure that didn't help either with like evidence.
Yeah. I'm gonna skip some of this because some of this is just not necessary. But yeah, people ended up starting to make rumors. And of course, you know how the world is now. Rumors are literally like, that's where you find all of the, what do we talked about it last episode, where most information you find online is like misinformation. So, and most of the time it comes from people creating these rumors. But before I get into those rumors, I was gonna say, so June 14th was when he disappeared, and by June 25th, which was 11 days later, the case had expanded nationwide. So this became like a whole nationwide thing. But with the rumors, oh, I actually didn't even read this part, so we're gonna read this together because I didn't even see some of these rumors, but some of them were known as that he was lost and disoriented. He was abducted. A suspicious man took him. He was eaten by animals. A serial killer got to him, or just a mystery. But some people said that there is a mystical unknown rumor. So, like, obviously, like the unexplainable, not knowing what could have happened to him. Somebody also said about the serial killer theory was that the FBI files were able to figure out that that wasn't like it was, there was no way that it was a serial killer, that it could have been. They said taken by animals could have been a more likely cause. But it would have been, I guess, something really, really big that would have taken him. And then they even said the suspicious man situation. A lot of the rumors just didn't really like add up. Like it didn't, a lot of it just didn't
It was
make
just kind of
sense.
hearsay, like
Yeah.
people just kind of talking because they
Yeah.
just needed something to be like a filler.
Yeah.
Another thing that I saw too, was during the search, although they really didn't come up with anything, and then the storm that came through kind of washed away a lot of the evidence. The one thing that they did find was a set of child size footprints, one barefoot and one of an Oxford shoe leading to a stream. It said that the track stopped at this point, and then they didn't find any other clues in his whereabouts. And Denny, at the time that he had gone missing, was wearing a pair of Oxford shoes. His parents, though, were kind of like, hey, I don't know that these are his tracks because they were a little bit too big to be from him. But I was like, at the same point, I don't know if the Oxford was a popular type of shoe, or but what are the chances of that being by the stream, and
Yeah.
I can't help but also kind of speculate on the cryptid side of things, because everybody knows that when it comes to the forest, especially like in Tennessee or any kind of mountain, they're very like cryptids apparently are very good at luring people into the woods. So you never know if this thing like lured him to a stream, or just kind of looking on the paranormal side of things.
Yeah.
But I thought that was pretty crazy that like after all that searching, after all the hours, 13,420, I think was like the number, like nothing. Like that's just crazy. Like to have that kind of body count to assist, I don't know, it's just weird. And I know like there were like strange sightings that people like had called in, and you never know like with some of these tip lines like what's fact and what's fiction. But
I was just reading another article about the suspicious man theory. I think it was suspicious man. They were saying that some people, and this is where I'd probably debunk it because I do feel like, well, I don't know. I don't know. It depends on the situation, but some people believe that he would have been a victim of like a cannibalistic human type of thing, because I know that there is rumors that which I was hoping we would talk about at one point in the future in one of our episodes about how I think I'd send you the video the one time about how there's
like cannibals in the cave system.
there's some
Yeah.
odd, rumor about the cannibals, or that there are cannibals living in the national parks or living in the national park cave systems, and that's why so much of the park is blocked off from people, and that the only reason why we're only allowed into certain parts is because if we weren't allowed in the national parks at all, like people would get suspicious or whatever. But They said some people believe Dennis Martin was the victim of a more vicious attack by cannibalistic feral humans who are said to live undetected in the national park. And the reason nothing was ever found on his body or clothing was because they were hidden far from view in the safety of their colony. For their part, Martin's family believes someone may have kidnapped their son. Harold Key was 7 miles from Spencefield the day Dennis Martin went missing. That very afternoon, Key had heard a sickening scream, and then he had spotted an unkempt stranger hurrying through the woods. So people say, was the event connected with the disappearance?
But it said he also had a paper with a hand-drawn map,
who the boy
which
or
the man who
Key?
darted out of the woods. They
Oh,
said that he had like when Harold Key like had a, I guess I don't know if he approached, but the man who darted out of the woods, there was a paper with a hand-drawn map on it laying on the ground in the area where the guy had seemingly been like hiding for some time. So you figure another thing that I was going to say too is kind of going to like the abduction theory of things. You figure if somebody goes to a campground long enough, right? It doesn't take much to observe the like frequent flyers and the people who come annually and kind of get to know them and know their, are they paying attention and watch them and be strategic. So like when I read that, I was like, okay, that doesn't seem too like out of the realm of possibility. And then the gentleman apparently like who was never identified just darted off and got into a white Chevrolet and left.
It's a little sketchy.
Which is a little, I mean, that's a little suspicious.
Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if you read about this, but there was this one man. I don't know if this is his first or last name. Or no, wait, maybe they don't. Oh no, they don't say. Never mind. After Dennis had disappeared, there was actually a hunter, a ginseng hunter, who had found a child's skeleton about 3 miles downhill from where Dennis had went missing, and
he was partaking in illegal activities.
yeah, and because of that, he decided to wait on reporting the skeleton because he knew that he was illegally taking ginseng from the national park. And so in 1985, the hunter then eventually contacted a Park Service ranger, and the ranger had put a group together of about 30 seasoned rescuers, but they were not able to find the skeleton, which is kind of frustrating because if he had spoken up sooner, do you think like maybe they would have found the skeleton? Or
well, my true crime mind is also kind of going towards how do we know that this supposed ginseng hunter isn't guilty party and he maybe had a guilty conscience and was like, hey,
you think it
I
could
found
be
a
him?
child's skeleton and I want you to search the site, and then probably like double thought and was like, oh, maybe like I didn't clean up everything and they could find me, you know what I'm saying? And then was like, oh yeah, I guess it's just not there anymore. Like, do you think it's weird that after he reports it, it just disappears?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I get that.
That would be, to me, that's a little odd. And I'm like, it's weird that you were illegally harvesting ginseng that day. That's why you didn't report it. So you waited like how long after the fact?
But that's scary too, that like, and even to this day, there are definitely, I was gonna say most likely, but there are definitely killers out there and people who, partake in like, abducting and doing all of that and have not been found to this day. It's crazy. Like when you see those cold cases that get reopened and then they finally find somebody, there are cold cases to this day that like have never been solved and will never be solved. And I'm not talking about the cases that are like, oh, the person maybe got lost and got stuck or got eaten or something. Like I'm talking about like the human, like serial killers, people abducting kids and adults or whatever. Those kinds of cases are terrifying because there are probably cases out there, even cases that aren't documented, that like there could be somebody missing right now and or who have been, killed and like the person has never been caught. And that's crazy.
It's scary. Like when I watch one of my favorite books and I think that they did a pretty good job with the movie, was like the Lovely Bones. And
Mhm.
that's kind of like, this reminds me of that a little bit. It kind of reminds me of that and like The Shack.
Mhm.
And like, you just like think about how, like, I think no justice really bothers me. Like, no closure, no justice. Like, that's a really hard thing to find peace with.
Mhm.
You know, like, I couldn't imagine, like, I would feel better, like, having answers and having a dead
Yeah.
child than
Than not knowing at all.
waking up every day with some sort of false hope that like my child was going to return home. Like
Yeah.
I truly think that's every parent's worst fear, is like, you know, if something was to happen, never getting that closure. And I think that's the one thing about missing person cases, not even just like missing 411 or like missing children, but just missing anybody. I love watching those TikTok videos of those divers who like bring closure to families.
Mm.
I don't know if you've ever watched them, but
I've
like
seen a few of them.
I get sucked into like the wormhole of watching them because I'm like, you know, these are cases that, and I'm not knocking law enforcement, because Lord knows it's a lot easier for a team to focus on one case and get
Mm.
answers than people who are overworked, understaffed, super tired, working on 20 different cases. So
Yeah.
like to watch these people just kind of do this and close these cases out for people and give them some answers is like crazy. And I think that's what kills me the most with the missing 411 cases. It's just terrible because there's no closure and there's no like, it could be anything, and it could be
Yeah.
paranormal, it could not be. But let me tell you something, if there's a cave system of cannibals,
Mhm.
count me out. Like, no way.
I think the saddest, and we had talked about this a couple weeks ago, I think the saddest part was when I was scrolling through the missing peoples. It wasn't a lot, but like just even see any, like let alone like one. Um, the amount of like Jane and John Does. They're like they must have not had any family, or they might not have even been able to be identified, and it's just sad to see how many people could have, went missing or died, and they have nobody to be like, okay, what happened to this person? Like, we don't even know.
And they were
It's sad.
somebody at some point.
Exactly. Everybody always has somebody at one point in their life. Even if you say at one point, I don't have any family, I don't have any friends. Like, you had somebody at one
You
point.
came from somewhere.
Exactly. Everybody came out of a butthole. Like, it's
A front butthole.
exactly.
Actually, that's false. Everybody was brung by a stork because we don't believe in front buttholes.
You're right. You're right.
I prefer the pretty version. I'm just kidding. Give me the nasty
Front butt.
front butt.
Speaking of front butt, I had a substitute teacher. It just made me think of this. I had a substitute teacher when I was a kid, and we used to say that her front was in her back and her back was in her front. She was really mean to us, so we used to pick on her.
Oh Lord,
Yeah,
that's
it just made me
terrible.
think of she had front butt.
Well,
Trying
hopefully
to.
you never have to deal with her in life ever again.
I actually saw her at the grocery store the other day.
Well,
And I told Lacey, I was like, that teacher is the teacher I always used to tell you about. She was a very mean substitute. But she's looking really good. She's old, but she's a lot skinnier, and she's skinny queen. But she still looked very mean. So she probably hasn't
so maybe
changed.
like bodies change, just not the personality.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, skinny queen with an attitude.
Eh.
That's okay.
We like nice people with
Yeah.
no judgment and loving hearts. Bye. But yeah, so back to the case of Denny. Yeah, I mean they pretty much just they really just, what I felt like, what I got towards like the end of this case, I felt like what I thought was horrible about it was what I just talked about. What I thought was the silver lining to it, though, was that this case literally was the driving force behind changing the way that national park investigations were done. So like at least if they never do find him, it's not totally in vain. You know, I'm sure try telling that to his parents who have ached for him this whole time, but at least now going forward, I mean, there's so many missing. I don't necessarily know that at this point it's even the search tactics anymore
Yeah.
because they've changed things and they've learned from their mistakes and they're like, okay, like that was literally the largest search party in US history. Like that will never take place again because it compromised so much valuable evidence and definitely missed a lot. But at the same point, I do think we have to recognize that there's a paranormal aspect to a lot of these cases because either there's like, which I mean, again, I've heard crazy stories. This could be, a conspiracy theory. We've always been like told in the paranormal community, from different walks of life, that there's different planes of existence. There's glitches in the matrix, so per se, and time jumping, things like that. And so when you hear some of these people talk about these things, it kind of does make you really raise an eyebrow and go, what if like that was the case? What if somewhere like he's just in a different,
Right, and he's
I
just
mean, if
living
he's
his
dead,
life.
he's definitely in he's somewhere else other than here. But
Yeah.
if he wasn't killed, he wasn't abducted, wasn't eaten by a cannibal or a cryptid or whatever, or just a wild animal, what is like, and this is where it gets curious, is was it like a glitch in the matrix? Was it some sort of time jumping, incident? That's something that I have been doing a lot of research on because it's something I like really want to kind of explore and maybe talk about on the podcast because people's stories, although they could just be stories and we're not going to believe everything we hear on the internet, some of their stories like make sense and there's certain things that click and it's like all these people disappearing. How do we know that forests, where they have minerals and they have natural properties and all this stuff couldn't be like a conduit for like not I don't really want to call it time travel because I feel like that sounds cheesy, but essentially like time travel.
Yeah.
Like some sort of like time jumping or plane traveling.
I always wonder if, well, more so with, I always thought this more with like the how people talk about like the afterlife and stuff, but I guess this could also play into, missing persons and stuff and those who actually do go missing and can't be found. Like I've always wondered if everybody goes to somewhere. Like even the people that die, the people that go missing and are never found in any kind of way, those mysterious unexplained like cases. Like what if they just all go to a different, almost like a different parallel, like a
That's
different
kind of, yeah, like
plane.
a different
Yeah.
plane. Yeah. That's like, and that's exactly where my head is at. Like, that's you have to go somewhere. Like, energy, one of the first things they teach you is energy cannot be destroyed, only transferred.
Yeah.
So, whether you believe in heaven and hell, whether you believe in this plane jumping or, whatever it is, like, your energy has to go somewhere. So, where does it go? And I don't know if like you have the same like kind of like, because I know me and you have like very similar brains, but like sometimes like when I read stuff like this, I genuinely like have a moment of like, if I could just be the person behind the computer like playing Sims, like I just want to see what actually transpired.
Oh, all the time. I'm always thinking about that.
Like I just want to be a fly on the wall and like,
what if the reason why the aliens haven't abducted us yet is because we are the aliens, and when we pass, we actually turn into an alien. What if that's where our energy goes? That was just a crazy thought.
a little wild,
I'm a little,
but
it's 7:30. I'm a little tired. I'm in purple Gatorade right now.
me too. I'm in like dark purple Gatorade.
Yeah.
I'm in like week old, probably has backwash in it, dark purple
It's sitting
Gatorade.
in the soccer mom's car because nobody
Underneath
wanted
the
to drink
seat
it,
with like half
right?
eaten Cheetos, dark purple Gatorade. That's the state I'm in. My wrapper's falling off. My bottle's probably old and faded.
It was like only taking like 3 sips because nobody wanted it, so they threw it underneath the seat.
Oh, that's
Now
good.
it's all
That's
hot from the
rich.
August heat.
I'm gonna start using that. Like if I don't like somebody, I'm gonna be like, ooh, you are the darkest purpley Gatorade under a soccer mom's van seat,
Right?
covered in dog hair and eating Cheetos. That's what
Oh,
I think of you. That's what I'm gonna say.
there's little bits of Cheeto in the drink because the kid was like, Cheeto, Cheeto.
That's Maisie. That is
Oh,
Maisie. I
got
call it the forbidden boba tea because like
ew.
she makes likes to make bubbles in my drinks, which is why
Likes
I
to
don't
make
really share with her
potions.
these days. I'll share with her when I'm kind of done with the drink and I'll be like, all right, you want some of this? Because like she is so nasty.
Kids are
Like
so gross.
she just like is like, look, mommy, look what I can do, and like blows bubbles, and I'm like, ugh. I'm like, well, there's your breakfast, lunch, and dinner floating in my
Um,
lemonade.
my brother is the reason why I'm traumatized with sharing drinks with other people because as a kid he was very saliva-y, and so my mom would be like, "I'll give him a sip of your soda or something." I'd be like, "Do I have to?" And he'd sip it, and you'd see like the string of like saliva.
I was hoping you were not gonna say that.
I
I was like, how saliva are we
I
talking?
can't. I have a hard time sometimes sharing drinks with Patrick. Like if it's a straw or something, like I have to make sure that they like cleaned it off or like didn't use a bunch of saliva. Like I can't share drinks anymore. I don't even really like to share food sometimes because it just the thought of the saliva, I can't do it.
Like reverse Uno, I
I
also am
just
very
burped. Oh my god.
self-conscious when I drink. Like I really hate when people, and it's not like I'm not trying to be like a biatch or anything, but like people be like, "Oh, you want to try a sip of this?" And I'm just like, it's not even about me sharing with you, but I get self-conscious because I'm like, are they looking at my lips? Are they looking like, are they grossed out by me? Like, am I salivy? Like, and I'm like, my anxiety, like, just don't share anything with me. I'd rather you just not.
Yeah, right. Like, I
Don't
was
ask me.
I'm in that weird, and I know you're obviously still in that like era, but I feel like when you're in your 20s, everybody always is like, try this, you should try this. Like I went away 2 weekends ago with Patrick for our friends who we were doing like a kind of like a pre, even though they're not getting married for like another year, we did like a pre-getaway type of thing. And like the people that were there, like we were kind of like tasting each other's drinks and stuff, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you want to try it?" And I'm thinking, like, first of all, I don't even know some of you, and you're telling me it's okay to share your drink, like that's crazy. And
Like, how do
so
I know you don't
instead
have
of
the herp?
right, and so instead of sipping the straw, I would like take a sip from like the side of the cup or something, but then somebody else would take it and then sip from that same spot, and I'm like, "You gotta
Like,
do
people also, I
that,
feel like, get offended too. They're like, I feel like because
right?"
they're self-conscious. It's like when you take the lid off and you sip from the side of the cup, they're like, am I
Right?
gross? Like, do you not want to share my straw? And it's like,
No, I just don't want to get cooties or give you cooties. It's just it's reciprocated the same
just like,
way.
let's just leave the cooties. Like, if you think what I'm getting looks delicious, then just get yourself
Yeah,
one.
right. You know what? I'm just gonna start carrying a dropper around with me, a little pipette, and I'll just
That's
pipe it
smart
in my
though.
mouth.
Be
Be
like,
like,
oh yeah,
oh,
let
that's
me try
interesting.
this. It probably would honestly like spread the flavor around nicely.
Yeah, right. Just
Yeah.
have like a box in my purse, pull it out. It's like a really nice pipette, and just take it and be
It's
like,
a classy way to try what everybody
exactly.
else is having without
Right?
contracting like any kind of thing.
The cooties.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean that wraps up our missing person 411 with minimal ADHD, ADD um digression.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad, I guess, this time.
This is an okay episode. I think we're
Yeah,
both just strung out from freaking Mercury and purple
it's
Gatorade.
fucking Gatorade.
Yeah, so we'll bring the energy back when life isn't so discombobulated. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so
And
I hope you guys enjoyed the story. Thanks for listening, but stay tuned for all the exciting guests that we're gonna have coming up. And we'll have some more like fun stories for you guys. I'm trying to work on like listener submissions. So if you are listening to this, we are taking submissions. You can email us at the ghoulfriendhourpod@gmail.com. So yeah,
yeah.
that concludes the episode.
Thank you.
Thanks for getting schweered with us.
I thought you were gonna say
Schwiggity
Swifty.
Swifty. Isn't that like a
It's
Pickle
Rick and
Rick?
Morty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Should get Swifty.
I can't even call him Rick and Morty. I just like Pickle Rick.
Pickle
I just like
Rick.
saying that. Pickle
I don't
Rick.
even watch that show, but Patrick watches all the time. So I have like no choice but to hear all of the quotes.
Yeah, it's brain diarrhea.
It is.
Diarrhea. But yeah, so again, thanks for joining us, guys. And like I said, if you have any submissions, submit them to the ghoulfriendhourpod@gmail.com. And we were going to put together a spooky listener episode with all of our submitted stories. So these are real life, real people, and kind of dissect them and I guess just see what you guys think.
We don't think, you think.
Yeah,
guys
you
do the
think
thinking,
for
we
us.
just do the talking. Because if
Yeah.
you notice, when we think, it digresses into 5 different conversations.
And I feel like when we think, it just exhausts us quicker. My brain exhausts me. I don't want to think. Like
I'm
I do
already
enough
tapped out.
thinking. Yeah, I do enough
Oh.
thinking like pre and post purple Gatorade. So let's not do that.
I wonder what
Give us the
color Gatorade will
content.
be next.
Yeah. Well, until next time, and as always, let's
get
weird. Weird. We need like a weird button.
We should.
Like the big Staples button, but like
Exactly.
green and purple, and it says weird.
Exactly.
I'm gonna actually look into having that made.
Do it. But we gotta
And we're
get
just gonna
someone
hit
weird
it.
to say it. It's gotta be somebody like, it's gotta say some weird shit.
Weird. It's gonna be like, let's get weird. I'm like, all right, not exactly. Like, can we record our own? But all right, bye guys.
Bye.
Peace.